I reckon we're in the stadium now. We can hear the crowd. We can see the finish line. This is, of course, our last session of the conference, Investing for Good. Please welcome to the stage Tuna, Willem, the Chief Executive Officer of Innovate, and the moderator of this session will introduce the panelists.
Thank you, Bongani. Yes. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tuna Willem. I am a creative and social entrepreneur based in Namibia, and it's a wonderful opportunity to be in a room with such dynamic thought leaders, change makers, under this program the Standard Bank South Africa has put together so well. I'd actually like to invite my panelists to the stage with me because we have an approach that we're taking. So Nikki, Dora, Pauline, Marlon, please come and join me on the stage. Thank you. Please give them a round of applause. You can. Good, thank you, and good morning again to everybody. We talk about the term impact for good. It was coined around 2007 by actually the Rockefeller Foundation in their quest to create a relationship between social progress and financial gains. And so they quantified this term for themselves and they packaged it, and it was preceded and other terms actually came on board that were designed by other social entrepreneurs, by impact investors like blended value, social capital. So the landscape has been progressing, and here we are today, 2024, and there is an array of pioneers in various sectors making big leaps and bounds, agribusiness, agriculture, and so forth. So please, I'm going to open up the floor, maybe starting with Marlon. Marlon, let's start with your why. Why RLabs? What do you do? And how do you do it?
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. I think the why RLabs, and maybe it's a very interesting question, because for me the journey started many years ago with a young girl that fell in love. I don't know how many of you ever fell in love. Can you raise your hand? Okay, I see some people are raising 2 hands. But it was a young girl that basically had to make a decision while at school, that she either needed to keep the baby because she felt pregnant, or she had to get rid of the baby. And at that moment in time, everybody told her, you're making a mistake, you should get rid of the baby because you're the youngest, you're the only one in the family that's going to complete school. And I'm very grateful that my mother decided to keep the baby, because that was my introduction into the world. Wow. And that was my first introduction of hope. So why RLabs has always been about hope and creating opportunities for those that has always been excluded. And that's really the why. And fundamentally what RLabs does, we create systems and opportunities for young people and women specifically across the continent. And more recently, RLabs Capital is the investment arm that invests in these kind of innovators and entrepreneurs that can create sustainable livelihoods.
Fantastic, thank you. Ms. Pauline, your turn.
Okay.
Why do you do what you do?
I think a couple of things. Passion. And I guess the attraction to Standard Bank is because of its mission, driving Africa's growth. So when you drive Africa's growth, you drive it at multiple levels. So if you look at a pyramid, you have the top, the middle, and the bottom layer. So there's a lot of work going on the commercial side, as we've had the last 2 days. On the top and the middle, there is what we call the base of the pyramid. How do you bring in that to fit into a brand like Standard Bank? And I think our chief executive, Sim Shabalala, spoke earlier and said, look, we are a bank that is over 160 years. I was trying to count the numbers as he was speaking. 160 years gives this brand resilience. It is a brand that is known. It is a brand that quite a number of other brands that are trying to work in Africa are looking to work with, and I'll be speaking to quite a number of these examples. It is also a brand that is a trusted brand, And what we've picked, even as we engage at the base of the pyramid, is it's an aspirational brand. So a lot of people aspire to bank with the blue color. So what does that mean? How do you bring them from where they are, bring them up, and let them appreciate what Standard Bank has to offer? So for us, there is passion, there is the truth to what we do, helping Africa grow, and you can't grow if you don't bring that bottom to the next layer.
That's actually going to be a conversation point for us as soon as we, thank you, have spoken with Ms. Nikki and then Ms. Dora. Let's give the floor over to you. What is your why? And what are you doing?
So thank you. I think for me, I'm fortunate to be in Standard Bank BCB Agribusiness, and inherently, as we've seen today throughout the conference, there's a theme around the importance of agriculture and the importance of it not only driving economic growth, but also driving impact.
Correct.
It's one of the largest employers on the continent, and it is really a sector that is ripe for disruption and innovation. But it's also required of us as large organizations to look at industries and sectors like agri to say, how do we improve how we service our clients? How do we help our clients grow? How do we do things differently? How do we solve these systemic challenges? And as a result, drive growth on the continent.
Thank you. Ms. Dora.
Thank you for the opportunity. Why I'm doing this is because there are two things: the passion, as she mentioned, and also where I'm coming from is a highly poverty-endowed area. So I got educated through farmers' money, and I did not have a choice than to come back to feed back to whoever. Most of the people who supported me are no more, but their generations are still existing. So I needed to quit my job and come back to serve my people, because I had identified something within our own environment that can easily break the poverty gap if we come together as women to grow it together. And that is how Nat4 Group came about. I grew up living with my parents, doing the same menial jobs, peasant farming, picking shea nuts, and picking shea nuts into domestic feeding and also neighborhood trading. So it's the passion to help my people, and that is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's fantastic. Thank you. The conversation throughout the conference was really pegged at, corporate strategy, the philosophy, the investment that is being made to make a big impact as a commercial unit across Africa. And then we're talking about how does this impact, this investment that has been made, trickle down to one of the terms that were coined today, which it's an old term. I think the Grameen Bank, specializes in finance and that specific ecosystem, but the bottom of the pyramid. And in this space, how does the bottom of the pyramid connect to the philosophies and the impact and the investment that we're looking at making? And what is the journey to connecting that ecosystem, defining it, connecting with it, and making it productive for that investment that we're looking at? What is that relationship? Who would like to answer that?
I think from where we sit, I think being a foundation that is owned by Stanbic Kenya and working largely with our sisters in the other countries, what does that mean? I think as a responsible corporate citizen, it is only fair that as you move along, you bring the people at the base of the pyramid up. So I'll give you a few illustrations of what we've done in Kenya. It has three sides to it. There's what we call social inclusion.
Yes.
And the social inclusion means you look at the social issues and see how you can help solve for those issues with an opportunity to open up the economic growth. So I give you some of the examples, and then there's also what we call, you can't do it alone. The social needs are so much, the economic growth opportunities is so big, as has been presented. The question then becomes, how do you strategically partner
Correct.
with people who are like-minded that are going to help you? So the Kenyan example is where we decided early on when the foundation was set, just before COVID, that we needed to partner with the Kenya government at national level and at provincial level. What that did is that it gave us latitude. And how did we do that? We aligned to the national government's development agenda. The government has a lot of resources. It has execution capability. We were a small foundation. We, if I put it this way, we wanted to be seen to be relevant, and we wanted to leverage the resources. So the national government for us and the provincial governments were crucial as partners, because I think, as our regional chief executive did also say, we want to be seen as a bank that doesn't just take out the money. We want to be seen as a bank that's supporting the growth agenda of the markets that we operate in. Then the second thing we then said, what are the key issues? The SMEs were one of the issues. Just to give you an example that will probably tie to the conversation of yesterday, one of the things we did very early on, we were started just before COVID. We partnered with 4 of our corporate and investment banking clients. Just on the onset of COVID, managed to import ventilators. When Kenya had probably, as a country, 280-something, with 4 corporate clients, we managed to bring in 192 ventilators, almost doubling the capacity of what Kenya had to respond to COVID. What did that tell us? Is that there is power in the corporate clientele. The corporate clientele, our customers here, want to do good, and they want to do good with a partner who provides that leadership. That is what then led us to say, if we can do this just for COVID response,
Correct.
what else can we do? So soon after, we then decided we are going to support the government's national agenda on supporting women, SMEs, and youth, both from a social side as well as from an economic side. We went out looking for partners who were, again, in the same space, and I'm giving these examples just to illustrate the point. And in partnership with the government, the German government, again, set up a fund that was supposed to help businesses that had closed during COVID and bring them back to business. So we set up what we were calling an SME Resilience Fund. We have since renamed it to a catalytic fund. What were we doing? Catalyzing businesses.
Fantastic.
And we are catalyzing that in multiple ways. And subsequent to that, that fund has grown. We've gone with the same model to South Sudan, again leveraging very much the expertise that sits in the bank. And in South Sudan, set up a similar catalytic fund in partnership with the UN agencies. Again, what are we leveraging? We are leveraging a bank that is known to have been one of the first banks to sign the UN Responsible Banking Initiative. So we are true to our core. We are also leveraging the fact that we bank most of these international agencies. So they see you beyond a transaction. They see you as a partner that can work with them to transform the economies that you operate in.
Correct.
So there is enough examples that maybe we can get to a few more. But for us, it's crucial that, one, we live to a purpose and then leverage both our corporate clientele and our other strategic partners, as we call them, to unlock what we call economic opportunities at the base of the pyramid.
It's fantastic. For a foundation that has a philanthropic ambit, you're actually driving the agenda of shared value through alignment, through relevance, and through capacity building. It's fantastic to hear. Marlon, I want to pose that question to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, we are very privileged on the continent to have, I think, something like 420 million young people of working age. We know that many of them are not having any form of livelihoods. But there's an opportunity, because your greatest return on investment is when you invest in people. And young people is an investment that can give you a long-term return. And I want to tell you a quick story. I don't know how many of you know about the Cape Flats. The Cape Flats is basically where they teach you an MBA on the streets. Right? So they'll teach you about distribution, marketing. There's people that's willing to die for their brand. They've got their brands all tattooed all over their bodies, all over their faces. I don't know if Sim has got his brand tattooed on his body yet, but they're willing to die for their brands, right? So these are young people that feel that all hope is lost. And there was two young people that came, and they came and they said, you know, Marlon, as young people, there's no jobs, but there's a lot of work. And when they told me that, I realized, but that's true. Even though there's not a lot of jobs in the community, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And they then decided, at the time they were learning about blockchain, and they decided to build a technology that will incentivize young people if young people go out and do work. volunteer at a local NGO, go and clean your community, and every time you create value, that value then gets stored on the blockchain. That means it becomes verifiable work. And it's interesting that when you begin to create environments and investments in young people that is willing to, and all you have to do is, I love this earlier, they were saying, we just need to get out of the way, allow young people to lead, and trust young people to lead. What they were able to build, and the platform's name is Zlato, Z-L-T-O, which means gold.
Yeah.
And these young people from the Cape Flats, all right, they were able to build this technology that has now mobilized over 600,000 young people that are doing micro jobs that services over 8 million people. And interestingly, they actually did a project also with Standard Bank, where they mobilized, these young people went and they went to interview 20,000 SMEs to understand a little bit about how their business operates. But it shows you that if you're just willing to go beyond and invest in the community, that you'll be amazed at the kind of things that you would get, the returns that you would get.
Yeah.
And that's kind of for us is be willing to invest in young people and trust them to lead.
Yeah, I think we're going to come back to that point because that talks a lot about market development for the ecosystem that we want that impact to rest in and to vest in. So we're going to hold that point for the next conversation. I want to move over to Nikki, Head of Agribusiness Innovation and Platforms at Standard Bank. Talk to us about what that portfolio's ambit is, its mandate, its intention, and the impact that it's driving in the countries where it's present in.
So, I mean, we look at it across the continent with our various country teams to say, what are the client needs? What does the market need? But overarching, we know that there's themes when it comes to agriculture that a third of food grown globally is grown through smallholder farmers.
Yeah.
When we look at some of our clients, some of them sitting in the room here, they depend heavily on the success of a smallholder farmer for inputs in their supply chain. And it's often a overlooked segment when it comes to delivering services, not by aspiration, but by complexity. It's a hard market to serve, rurally based, and to reach and serve that market, it requires new ways of thinking. But the importance is no less. And really, we say, for our clients working across the African continent, one of the biggest challenges is around supply optimization. So we've been looking at an initiative in across South Africa, Kenya, and Uganda. We've got projects running under the banner of One Farm. But it looks different, slightly different in the different commodities and different value chains that we work in. In the context of Africa regions, we're looking at digitization as one of the first steps to solving the challenges and serving those supply chains. If you ask a processor or agribusiness aggregator, working with smallholder farmers is extremely difficult to track and work with them because they are essentially unknown. So what we're doing is we're building a platform that through our off-takers and our clients and B2B clients, we can reach the small farmer. First digitizing, giving them a track record of business, and ideally in the future unlocking additional financial services and bringing them into the sector. So that's one of the initiatives. And we're working with about 500 dairy farmers in Kenya and 400 coffee farmers in Uganda. And I want to just state, before I move to the programs we're running in SA,
We have time, a little bit.
one of the important factors here is that, and the theme of impact investing is that it takes time,
Yeah.
it takes collaboration, and it takes strong leadership.
Yes.
And I think we're fortunate to have those factors in our stable. We also have the reach of the bank, which has been a really an amazing place to drive these impact initiatives. But it really does take collaboration on the ground, and it can't just be a single organization to drive change across our food systems. So that's the one point I wanted to state. The other one is looking at what challenges do we face in SA when it comes to agribusiness. We know it's the agricultural sector is more advanced. We've got more commercial farmers here, larger farmers. But we still face the challenge of excessive food waste and a community of food insecure people across the continent. So yes, economic development is one of the key drivers for that, and we heard it earlier. That will serve those individuals. But in the shorter term, we have solutions that we can support support communities. So one of the other programs we've launched and been working on since 2021, and it started out of a COVID relief initiative, but has transitioned into an impact program, is redistributing food that essentially is either set for landfill or is suspect. So it's not market ready, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that food. The challenge is it costs a farmer and a business to move it to a beneficiary organization. So through One Farm Share, Standard Bank has launched this program where we redistribute this food to beneficiaries. Essentially, we are sitting at about 97 million meals that we've redistributed. And the key driver of it in the background is the engine of CSI and